Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to LCK Summer 2020. I'm Atlas, joined by the Valdanalyst once again. I hope you guys found something interesting to do in our gigantic break between series. DYN has been pretty consistent in making sure that these breaks are as long as possible.
They only go 2-0 unless they lose to Gen G. But other than that, their track record is clean, so they got that once again. And now we're going into another match that we do have a clear favorite up against a clear underdog. But will Team Dynamics be as clean? And will SANDBOX with Yamato now on stage actually be able to turn their season around?
Yeah, exactly right. Of course, Team Dynamics come off their loss against DRX. They tried some interesting stuff, though. I think their drafts were kind of cool. They had the Heimerdinger bottom lane, which was working out until DRX just had way better players in every role, is what it felt like. It was actually really sad because their drafts were really cool, but it just straight up did not matter because they just got outplayed everywhere. SANDBOX on the other side are not DRX, though. They have not been able to win a game. They are in last place with only one map victory so far. And it was against DRX, surprisingly enough. The only game that SANDBOX has managed to take is against the undefeated team in the league. So I don't know what I don't know what that means, but maybe it means that it gives them a better chance against Dynamics, because what SANDBOX could do, Dynamics certainly could not. So that's pretty strange. But there's one thing that we need to talk about, and that's the fact that Yamato is finally out of quarantine and is now here with the players to guide them through into Draft Valhalla.
Yeah, we'll have to see if that actually helps them out. The drafting for SANDBOX has been honestly not too impressive, so maybe with him up there on stage, he can convince some of the players to move away from individual comfort picks and more onto compositional helpers, as we do see from a lot of the top teams that honestly have an easier time of it because their players can play pretty much anything.
Yeah.
They are at the top of the ladder, but we'll have to wait and see how it does go, as Fate is going to be starting in the mid lane up against Kuzan. Kuzan has been impressing me a lot, actually, in recent times. I think he's really moved up, and he's becoming very self-confident at the same time, calling all the best mid laners in LCK his rivals.
Yeah, actually, I've been enjoying watching his play because I don't think we have that many mastery players left. And he is the Karma Corki Lucian player, right? He plays those three champions, throw in some Lissandra there, of course, because he put in so much time on it back in the day, and certainly was a player that has decided to bring it out so far this season. But we're going to have a look at some of these stats here. KDAs, just skip over those. SANDBOX is just going to be losing by a landslide when it comes to that.
Just skip them. Whatever.
Yeah.
Just don't look at those. And don't look at any of the other stats except First Dragon. That's the fun one.
That's a pretty good one. Dragon percentage as well for Dynamics. That's great. Just avert your eyes from the other side, as it doesn't matter because Yamato's here now. Yeah, this SANDBOX is completely different. It has been transformed. It has transcended what was its previous form and is now going up against Dynamics, newly invigorated, which they're going to need to. Of course, no changes to the roster here for Dynamics, but the last time these two teams faced was when Dynamics cleanly swept the promotion tournament to get themselves in here. And by, in the way that it was a clean sweep, SANDBOX did not manage to put up much of a resistance against the squad. And interestingly enough, as you can see by the mid lane, SANDBOX have fielded exactly the same roster that was in that tournament.
Interesting decision, to say the least. I think that Dove was actually becoming more and more consistent the more we saw him. I think he was one of the guys that actually looked decent in their last games, but fortunately they're going to bench him for that. So Fate is coming out here. We'll see how he does do as we're taking a look at the jungle matchup here.
Yep, good old Beyond up against OnFleek as, okay, the counter jungle percentage on OnFleek is...
Don't look at the KDAs. We're not looking at KDAs anymore.
Remember, we have a few jungle subs, like there's Ellen and Cuz, there's Bono and Malrung. Has Malrung played a game yet? Maybe not.
No.
I don't know whether 11th is necessarily dead last. Dread hasn't played a game. Maybe it is dead last.
No, I think there's one other team that we're getting.
Haru? Yeah, Haru and Cad.
Yeah, that's the one.
So he can't... there's at least a 12th place.
Yes.
So don't worry, OnFleek's
go.
nailing it. Beautiful. 4.5% jungle, counter jungle percentage is very small, though. barely getting over the other side of the map. And as, like, On Fleek is...
Hey!
There he is! There's our boy Yamato on the stage. Alongside Joker, who will be able to help with some translation, I assume. Gorilla also speaks basically perfect English, so no worries there either. I don't know whether if you pulled Gorilla over on this, if you met him. I don't think he'd speak to you immediately because, of course, our Korean players get a little bit anxious.
Yeah, and look at that. He immediately goes up to Gorilla and, like, whispers in his ear.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
some sweet nothings.
I heard
Get
you
them ready.
like to play Thresh. Well, we're not going to have that today. Sorry, buddy.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what Gorilla is going to be playing, whether he's back on Tom Kent's duty. Remember, Yamato's going to be controlling a lot of this draft, but he does need to take into account what the players can play and what they're going to be comfortable on. So don't expect a complete rewrite of what this draft is going to look like. But I really want to see something cohesive that utilizes the strength of his players. And he's going to need it up against Dynamics. Because Dynamics, they're desperate for a 2-0 here. They go ahead of Gen G and T1 if they get a 2-0 victory here and lie in sole possession of third place.
Yeah, Team Dynamics, see what they have to bring today. As we're going to get into Big Band, Karma, Callista taken off the board here. You can see Joker, who was... there he was solo coaching. Now he's got Yamato Cannon.
Yeah, he's been upgraded. Basically, the upgrade is now completed in StarCraft 1. We've got the Yamato Cannon and now the battle cruiser that was Joker has his Yamato Cannon operational. So it's going to be good. Trundle to be banned second, though, here on Dynamics side, as Set was taken off the board second for SANDBOX. And there's one thing that we're missing. Can you do the spot the difference of this and any other draft?
Varus?
Yeah, there's that dude.
Varus, where are you? Maybe that's Yamato's grandmaster plan. He's going to leave it open, and then he's going to counter the Varus. We did actually see that in recent times. Obviously, very different teams in that position, but maybe SANDBOX, who has a propensity to play aggressive, maybe.
Remember as well that Dynamics just performed the first loss for Lethality Varus up against DRX. They're going to lock it in again, but this might be SANDBOX feeling like Doctum's Varus is a weakness of this team. As, all right, we're just gonna, we're locking away some Syndras, some Volley Bears. I'm already look at that smirk on his face.
He's like, it's all going according to plan.
Oh, yeah. The master.
And, Olaf common into the bear, especially if that bear does go into the jungle.
Weirdly enough, we saw Clid actually invading Olaf's and just smacking them around, preventing them from even going into their jungle.
True.
They did end up losing the game, but the Volley Bear in the early game was very powerful in that particular one.
Clid is, he likes to flex. And... again, that could be flexing. Speaking of flexing, we could see top jungle even support. We'll see if Gorilla's up to the task. Azir's going to be picked here. So Kuzan is currently 2-0 on the Azir, just kind of quietly.
Is this Gorilla Bear?
I think it might be.
I want to see Gorilla Bear.
This will be our first support Volibear.
Yeah.
If this does come to play. And this is something that Ellis did mention. He thought it was... viable in the support role and stronger than the top lane. He mentioned both jungle and support, so we'll have to wait and see if they do actually flex it down there alongside the Senna. The Senna makes it more obvious, as now we're going to be banning away some Ornn, which would be very nice alongside of Azir Varus.
Yep, certainly gives them some late game potency there. I think Yuumi probably needs a bit of a ban. On the SANDBOX side, Olaf Yuumi is a great way to play Olaf that really can extend him into the later stage of the game where Azir is really going to flourish.
Yeah, they won't be Olafing at the end of the game.
Yeah, that might be a thing as well.
Yeah, well, they're not going to ban it. They're going to take away Lucian. They say we banned away Rich's Aatrox. We ban away his Lucian. What else is he going to play? And he, other than that, has played Mordekaiser. So That is the question. He's also played 1 game of Ornn, 1 game of Volibear, and a couple of games of Jace, actually. So that's the one thing that kind of could fit into this. They would lack a little bit of tankiness, but they'd have an immense amount of poke and damage in their comp.
I actually really like Jace in this position. Don't like this as much. It's going to put things pretty face up. You can still flex the Volibear around top and jungle.
It would have been really good there
Yeah,
on R4,
I think
actually,
so
because
too.
you also deny it away from Rich, and you add on to the amount of poke that you already have. And instead, Rich immediately is going to hover it and say, thank you very much, it looks like. This also means that Volibear is not going into the bottom side. A little bit more normal here for Gorilla and his play style. He's played 3 games of Timothy Kench so far.
Yep, Mr. Kenshin's has certainly been something he's been defaulting back to. Gorilla historically has been one of our best Tahm Kench players, but he went from Sir Thomas to Timothy over the last few years, so a dip, most definitely. As Guga, 4 seconds to go, and he's going to lock away Blitzcrank. There we go. The classic counter is Aurelia being hovered and will be locked in for Summit. On the top side, they not messing around. We are guaranteed to go for that one. ASAP. That's all right. This is going to be your SANDBOX draft into dynamics that got a lot of very powerful picks. The only one that does feel a little bit out of place is the Olaf. Not going to have too much augmentation carrying him to the later stages, but he should still be able to find value in the early game and in these skirmishes that we're going to start off with. So, interesting. I feel like this... Do you feel like the draft has benefited from the addition of Yamato Cannon coming out of this? I think the Jace overlook was a bit sad.
Yeah, I would have liked to see the Jace, but again, you weren't 100% sure what Rich was going to play in the top lane. But again, I mean, he doesn't have a very wide champion pool, so you could have probably guessed that the Jace would have been okay into the Mordekaiser, let's say.
You ban the Jace, you get Mordekaiser, right?
Or,
yeah.
Or do that.
So you know that the Mordekaiser is coming, and then you're happy to be Jace, right?
Yeah. And you're now going up against a very strong lineup on the side of Team Dynamics. They picked up that Jace we were talking about alongside Varus, which should be lethality with Azir. They have a lot of pick potential with the Blitzcrank as well, and even more poke from the jungle with the Olaf. On the other side, we see Aurelia coming in here for Summit. He hasn't played any Aurelia so far. He's played a lot of different things to not much success, but that was pretty much auto-locked in this one. So that is definitely going to be the sticking point to see if that actually does work out in the top lane.
Yep, Aurelia into Jace will be happening up there as we get onto the Rift for our first game between Dynamics and SANDBOX. And they had Yamato. He's already augmented this roster. This is their final form, but has it settled yet? You know, he has been in the SANDBOX team house. That was where he did his quarantine. But now finally he's been fully unleashed. As Dynamics, just a 5-point defense system, very evenly spaced. Like that a lot. As Rich might just throw a Shock Blast in, he does, and Summit dodges it. Very nicely done. Eyes on the prize.
GG in the top lane. That one is going to go to Summit, as we already have our victor there. Who is going to win the other lanes is the question. We're going to take a look at some of the runes here. Glacial Augment Senna, and it will be, of course, the lethality Varus. Don't want to see any more attack speed Varus.
Yep.
Unless you were in a very specific composition against another very specific composition.
Remember, it was actually Root that played the lethal tempo Varus as well. So he might think that Varus is very weak, because it didn't work very well in that game. Varus Blitzcrank, though, is an interesting lane combo. It's not like you're going to be super oppressive as far as range advantage or anything like that, but their all-in is insane. So, see what they do get done here so far. You've got Root and Gorilla pushing pretty aggressively, and Gorilla's not actually going for any farm. Root is taking all the CS, which is very interesting. This was recently buffed on Senna, the amount of souls that you actually get if you last hit the minion. So, just a little bit of a change in style.
Yeah. I suppose that is the idea behind it. Gorilla hasn't been having a great summer season, and so he has been kind of relegated to Tahm Kench duty at many times here for SANDBOX, and they say, well, we're just going to let Root do the carrying. Remember that everybody used to call Root the second coming of Teddy.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't say he was going to be as good, but everybody was excited for his potential on the side of Jin-Air when he was up and coming. He was the one guy who was always carrying on that roster when Jin-Air was kind of crashing and burning, and he came over to SANDBOX, and unfortunately he didn't quite have the same effect that Teddy did in new rosters that Teddy did play in.
Yeah. Wasn't exactly the upgrade that they were looking for. Was better than Leo in the end, though. And haven't seen too much of him in recent matches. I do want to see how this actual, like, carry, laning, CSing center is going to work. Because often you do see the Deadman's play Tahm Kench coming out with a situation like this. Is Beyond is going to turn up into the lane. Good hook is going to land onto Gorilla. That should get a flash, and it does. Very early on, eats the gray health, but maybe not in time, actually, for that piercing arrow to do its damage. And Gorilla's down to 100. Good. Gank on the bottom side, does get the flash.
I like the new animations for the reworked champions. They're always pretty flashy.
He's pretty impressive.
Volibear. Not too different. And yeah, he just went for a full clear, as did Beyond, but after that, he went down to the bottom side to try to go ahead and go for that. Nice hook here.
Yeah, really nice hook from Guga. Remember, Guga, another old hand when it comes to LCK players. Him and Gorilla both. As OnFleek's going to come down, it's a good snare that lands from Root, but you can see that SANDBOX struggling to stand any further forward just in case Guga gets another one of these hooks. And they die before OnFleek can even affect the situation. As in he goes, this is going to be his moment, as another Root is going to land by the man himself. And First Blood will go over to OnFleek. SANDBOX, the Yamato Cannon, has given them First Blood. It wasn't him. He's not in the game.
What a play, Yamato. Great job. But the Volibear jungle slowly coming out here and showing its power. I mean, at the same time, though, the wave was in a perfect spot. I think it was more just the jungling of OnFleek rather than any, you know, champion or kind of play like that. He went from farming and being on the top side of the jungle to immediately just running straight down into the bottom lane. And it seemed like Team Dynamics just had no idea that he could be there.
Oh, and the back timing's not great for Docdam as well. Yeah, not able to get to the first serrated Dirk, which is the ideal back. As wasting no time. I love a man who knows that he's going to flash and just does it, you know?
Yeah, they just, you notice that the wave, as we're going to take a look at their reaction, nice little fist bump there, hand in the air from Joker. I didn't realize we were going to get some.
That's cool. We get the
audio.
I think it's because we need to leverage Yamato's best feature, which is the sound of his voice.
Absolutely.
It is extraordinary.
You know, why don't we just get him up here on the desk for game 2? And maybe we can send you down to...
I hear he has some experience. Yeah, I can go down. Do you want me to coach? All right, Google looking for a hook. Is going to find it there and gets it onto the ideal target. What is given can easily be taken away, as it turns out, as Gorilla gets the gray health, and Beyond is going to take a turret shot, but is otherwise absolutely fine. So we equalize things on the bottom side, and Root has teleport, surprisingly enough, and will therefore not lose any of this gigantic minion wave. Definitely good news.
Just going to scoop it all up. Team Dynamics get the dragon, but it is just the one first Ocean Drake here for their team as, oh boy.
Oh dear.
Well,
all right. That was blind, I think. Was that vision? I didn't see it. Well, Drake is going to go down. The Olaf also going to go down as OnFleek. Looking for Docdam, and he does not have his flash. He is trapped in here. Fate did not need to ult at all, but he did. Because sometimes it's about sending a message.
Kill secured.
Heck yeah.
He didn't even get the kill. He's like 0-0-2, feeling real bad right now.
Well, he doesn't have an R button that he can accidentally press, so
true.
And there's that.
And Volibear is just sitting here, getting ultra fed, 3-0. He is going to be so thick as this game comes along.
And actually, Volibears that snowball like this, we saw Clid have a performance like this in his first outing on the jungle Volibear, and it was very impressive. The later one, without that sort of snowball, did not feel anywhere near as powerful. So, good to see On Fleek able to get ahead. Good news here for SANDBOX. Gonna check this one out once again.
Look at this. They try to hook Gorilla, but they miss. And actually, Root jumps in front of it, assuming that he can get devoured, but he died so fast and Gorilla couldn't flash to get him. And then this is just a blind hook.
All right.
Really nicely done by Cougar. Had vision in the lane.
Yeah, knew that Senna was walking. It was actually going for Senna. So the opposite thing happened this time around. Unless he saw the Basic Darkness come through. Very interesting.
Either or. Caught one. Got the kill. And at the end of the day, this was unfortunate for Team Dynamics. Nobody had summoners. They couldn't get out. And we have another fight brewing here.
Yeah, exactly. On Fleek looking for the Viking, who will flash behind him. But it looks like Kuzan's going to be the next target. Not actually, as a fight is brewing topside as well. Vanguard's Edge is going to go completely wide, and Summit is sent straight back into the Death Chamber. And there it is. Kuzan finds the Emperor's Divide, and this is what we saw from SANDBOX beforehand. And man, wouldn't it have been nice if Fate had his ultimate?
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. Could have picked up a kill at least, but just like that, they are reminded why Varus is banned all the time. It's like, oh, you can junk me for half my health, and you can root me from 5 miles away. Seems fair. And Varus TP's in for the flank gank, and secures them that one. Nice play by Kuzan too, to get on in there and scoop up a couple more. As we're going to see the whole breakdown of this. It's like
how it started, yeah.
Yeah. Just kind of win at it, and with the help of Senna and the red buff, Beyond took a ton of damage. Nice flash though. And then you see the TP flank from everybody's favorite ganker, Varus. Nicely done. And just because of the positioning, the other two couldn't get to him. Kuzan gets the ultimate down. And he might have been a 2-for-1 if,
I mean,
if he died.
If you have ult scatter the week there, like ult and scatter the week there from Fate, that is crazy amounts of CC and damage onto a single target. That was a nice sidestep from Summit. So I do have to bring into question why Fate decided to throw away his R button when they had a kill secure. Sometimes, I guess, making sure that you can do it. Maybe they didn't have their eyes on where those summoners were at.
Yeah.
But still a bit of a shame. Could have been a very different story there as On Fleek wanting to get himself a crab. Should be able to get it. Okay, value. Rich. Double lethality this game. Hell of a lot of value when it comes to armor. And a possibility for a Mountain Drake. It's either that or an Infernal this game.
That would make it so unbelievably valuable for the side of SANDBOX to see if they could actually stack those up. We'll have to wait and see. As other than that, I mean, just taking a look at some of the lanes, it did look like Aurelia was doing okay, but she's actually losing gold, probably because the Jace picked up a kill along the way.
Yep. We get a bit more value as he entered the lane. But at Summit, looks like he's definitely pretty happy up here. Not too worried, and once that Trinity Force does come in after Blade of the Ruin King, it will be very, very difficult to contend with this Aurelia. More of a 4-1 style of composition. You're not going to be side laning as the Syndra, because in a long lane, she is pretty much waiting for someone to come and gank her. Piercing arrow lands onto Gorilla, as does the hook, as he does eventually integrate health, but it is not enough. Guga tanks up the turret for a little while, but man, yeah, Gorilla is acting like a fish. And I guess he is a catfish, but he's eating too many of these hooks.
He has both Flash and Exhaust available. Exhaust is quite good if you consider the potential to survive, even if you feel forced to use both after getting caught. I think you might as well. Could have also flashed the hook. And it also highlights why you probably shouldn't leave Varus available. He is really, really good at locking down targets.
Yep, oh, that interrupt was so sexy. Fate is going to press his R button again, get another kill. This one I definitely approve of. Nicely done. He's actually had Kuzan pushed in the majority of this game. And remember, the Syndra was picked face up. Kuzan decided that it was his time to pick the Azir into it. Not exactly a matchup that I have too much of an opinion on either way. But Fate has been playing with a lot of aggression. That's definitely good news. SANDBOX are going to even out the Drake since that piercing arrow was very close. This is SANDBOX with a gold lead, Valdez.
Doesn't happen very often, to be honest. And they've got to feel good. I mean, this early game did go their way. I mean, you remember the fight around the Drake as DYN is going to pick up those plates. You could see there were a bunch of pings on where he was as well. And other than that, it was just kind of individual mistakes, mostly down in the bottom side. You could see that Dynamics are really trying to make the most of their pick lane down on the bottom side, Blitzcrank Varus, and they've been very successful in that.
Still, I feel like the center's going okay. Also able to charge it up, do a fair bit of damage here towards the bottom side. And as you can see, a change up in build. Man Immune picked up already, stacking that one. Looks like it's going to be Black Cleaver that comes in next, meaning that Root is going to have a bit of extra mana to deal with. And can just keep throwing out these spells. They do need to, keep respecting Guga. He hits hooks. He's good at it.
Yeah. The poke itself is not going to do much, as we see. I mean, Duck Dom can fire everything he's got over there, but
Root just decides to walk right into it. That's his strategy. Gorilla. Going to be able to get the Devour off in time, but it's just... We've seen a lot of these Tahm Kench's that have been able to do the whole let's devour out of the hook as it's going. Gorilla hasn't found too many of those just yet.
They're setting up for a big rotation down bot, but they've taken a little bit too much time to get there, and so Enclique and Fate are both in position to deny it. They're really trying to push their edge down on the bottom side here, Team Dynamics, and try to, you know, they got a decent amount of plates down there. They're trying to take down the First Blood turret. Yep, with that play. Other lanes kind of just farming so far, but slowly and surely, Fate and Summit are getting ahead.
Whoa! Rich gets Vanguard's edge. Underneath the turret he goes. Summit very comfortably grabs a solo kill and doesn't even lose more than half of his health.
Really clean. I mean, we're going to have to see exactly how that one got started, but it reminds you of old Summit, right?
Yeah, man. He used no flash, got Rich's flash, and killed him. Good God.
The power of Aurelia. It's part of the reason why we used to see Aurelia a lot, her ability to actually 1v1 and solo kill and the dominance you get in lane. But don't see it too much nowadays. But Summit bringing it back out here.
Yeah.
This is pretty just, you know, bread and butter Aurelia. You gotta know that she can jump onto that back line. You can't really be next to that one. So Rich kind of making a mistake, and Summit spotting it and putting him in the death chamber.
Yeah, some really clean resets as well. You saw he had blade surges for days, even used it to escape. Very clean stuff. So 2-1-0 now, and getting towards his Trinity Force. Sheen done is such a huge spike in damage for an Aurelia, as the Varus will take down this outer turret bottom lane. But one thing Aurelia also does really well is just murders backline carries. She's very, very sticky. She can land any of her tags, and it looks like Summit's going to be able to take solo gold, at least locally, for this top outer turret as well. And SANDBOX will move into the lead to the tune of 600.
Yeah, it's something. They got something brewing. And it's going to be Infernal Soul here, which, you know, we were talking about Mountain and its effectiveness up against so much lethality would have been very nice for the side of SANDBOX, especially the guys that are actually building that armor. But the Infernal is going to be extremely good for Team Dynamics if they can get their hands onto a couple of them. And for SANDBOX,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Syndra, Senna, Aurelia are all going to enjoy that as damage carries themselves.
It feels like the fair dragon in this game, right? Because both teams want it pretty equally. Whereas the Mountain would have definitely served SANDBOX more than it would Team Dynamics. But it is still going to be spawning. this is going to mean we're going to get a fight. Onfleek's in a pretty good position at the moment, but doesn't quite have the Righteous Glory available for that power spike. We're going to get tagged up. As SANDBOX is susceptible to a hook, man. Google looks for it. Oh, get it onto Onfleek, and now SANDBOX use this window of time to start pressing forward. Flawless duet not going to land. Yeah. As Root needs to avoid some of this poke. The Varus is so incredibly frustrating as Dynamics is split. They do move themselves away from this Dragon Pit. Shirley gets a lot of damage onto the turret, but now Dynamics have dealt with it.
For SANDBOX, I think the more time you sit here and take poke, the worse it's going to be for you. So they need to make a decision. I like that they're making a decision. We'll see if it's the right one here to go ahead and start this Infernal.
I do like that they sort of stood back and allowed the Piercing Darkness to help heal them up, but now it's going to be straight up a 50-50 as Summit looking for a flank, but he's already at half health. And you can see he's getting frustrated at the Varus. You best believe that's exactly where he's going to be aimed. Dragon's going to move back. Onfleek dives on in and grabs himself the Drake Cougar. Going down very low on the backside as well as the fight is truly on. Emperor's Divide completely whiffs as Root wants to try and go over that wall, but he's not going to invest the flash. No kills, but the Drake does get claimed by SANDBOX. Almost said no kills exactly as Fate died, but not quite enough damage behind that Empowered Shock Blast.
Yeah, nicely done by SANDBOX. Sitting in mid and losing a K-Ram to poke is never what you want to do, but they set up a kind of phalanx. They threaten the flank from their Aurelia that already is really nicely fed. They get the tanky Volibear in the front, tanking up all the damage from the enemy, who just bursts it down as well. And you never really want to be in a pit against this guy. Able to get devoured up, saves his life. They do a nice amount of AoE damage, surprisingly, by the Senna, as well as the Syndra, who did a good job. And Summit essentially took Kuzan entirely out of the fight. I mean, threatened him, made him waste his ultimate. Imagine if he got into the backline and did an ultimate of sorts. Could have had a different result.
I mean, if that ultimate did damage, then there's at least 3 people on SANDBOX that died in that team fight, right? But it whiffed onto everyone. And you're exactly right. That comes down to Summit. And it's just good seeing him be good again. You know, doesn't that feel nice?
Yeah.
I felt so silly talking about him as a good player, you know, because he's come into every game and we remember what he was capable of. He's really mechanically talented. But I think he's definitely a confidence player as well, and that confidence has been non-existent in previous weeks. And sometimes change just for change's sake really does help you flip that switch when it comes to momentum. So we're going to talk to him. I'm going to cast to curse him a lot, as Beyond is going to be here. He's going to look to dash around this backline. Vanguard's Edge comes in. Could it be the 2v1 as he throws down the Blade of the Ruin King, dodges the undertow, and now Beyond wants to get the heck out of here. They're calling in their friends. The flash over, not quite able to get onto that kill on the Jace, but still, I'd say it's worth it. Brought 4 people bottom lane, and Kuzan should be the trade. Flash forward, ulti, the orbs are following. They do get the flash out of him. Does make it a safety. SANDBOX take mid out of turret. I'd almost say worth, as they'll take the inner and top lane, and that does definitely make it worth.
Yeah, they spend so many resources to kill the one Aurelia that it's like, well, you're going to lose a lot more on the map. That's just basic macro. You can't send 4 members down to the bottom side just for the 1 kill. At least they did get the kill. Summit was nearly able to flash on Rich and get that one last auto Q, which is what he was looking for, but Rich very intelligently flashed away. We'll take another look at it here as, look at Rich, he's like running away. He knows that if he gets in range, he's probably just going to get one-shot. He's not very tanky, so they got to wait for the rotation to come down. And then,
and he was tagged as well. I mean, that was like Q auto, and he should have been dead. Is Onfleek. He got devoured, took a lot of damage. Probably was a hook. Jonah Strong, if you're listening, we don't need a replay. We are aware Goog probably landed a hook. Stockdam in the mid lane having a much better game than he did on the Varus against good old DRX. It's not exactly a situation where SANDBOX are anywhere near out of the woods. Their 4-1 comp is strong. Senna does scale very well. But Azir, also great in the late game. Poke advantage is well and truly in favor of Dynamics. They start landing piercing arrows and shock blasts. It's going to be very hard for SANDBOX to stick around. SANDBOX need to be decisive in this game if they're going to do anything. The next fight around the Infernal is going to be very important.
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely. As we see the Senna go back here and pick up Black Cleaver, and she did go Glacial Augment, and she's got her Muramana completed, so she's actually going to start doing some really nice damage. The only thing is that Black Cleaver is really just going to be helping the Aurelia, and I suppose her own damage, but Senna doesn't exactly attack very fast, so it's going to be difficult for her to stack that one up, and should mostly only hit one target.
Depends. Piercing Darkness can get some value. You're right, but we'll see. See how Root's going to be able to play it here. Just about not being able to hit very often. Summit does definitely benefit a lot, and he's going to be in charge, getting towards that backside, and even if you get, you know, a couple of stacks with a Q and an R out from the center, could certainly allow Summit to have far more ease of access, smashing down the backline. Summit can just hop on this Drake as soon as it spawns, as Dynamics have decided that they're going to roll the dice on a Baron instead, as it's very, very dark. Are there
SANDBOX
trinkets?
Yeah, they don't really know that this is happening. They're going to find out right now. Here they come.
Yep, On Fleek dives on forward, and in fact the Infernal Drake is given up on. Gorilla going to go golden. Summit looking for the flank, should find it here. The Flawless Duet comes down. Vanguard's edge, Guga flashes away. No one's going to die on the side of SANDBOX either, but some very low health bars that Piercing Darkness will help alleviate. And Root's actually playing a very good game of League of Legends here today. Dynamics might just have the opportunity to move back towards this Baron and run this Do-Si-Do all over again.
Just going to go for it here. The sustain advantage does go to SANDBOX, but they're able to pick up a plant here to heal some of them up, and they're looking for more picks.
Yep, Summits, if you at first don't succeed, you got to do it again. And he pressed Q this time. And after the Blitzcrank doesn't have flash, there is not a lot of options. So Dynamics, you can understand why they went for the players. That's a great double stun out from Fate. Should be enough. Every time he softens up beyond, especially Doctor, the closer he gets to being one-shot by Summit, the easier it is for SANDBOX to control an area.
Taking a look at a lot of cooldowns. The Chains of Corruption just coming off cooldown here. That's a big one.
Emperor's Divide still up as well. Unleashed Power is there for Fate. So. Oh my god!
Thank you very much for the leash.
That feels really bad. For SANDBOX,
that's
also,
the poke.
Yeah, it helps iterate just how strong Lethality Varus is.
Yeah, and I didn't actually get a look. I was actually looking at the steal to see exactly how much AD and AP, but take a look here once again. Gorilla able to bait very nicely. Summit kind of gets CC'd up awkwardly, gets knocked back and then knocked up. And then Team Dynamics go for it again. And this is where I was kind of, you know, they have Beyond with Warmox and it's proc. So they're like, hey, we can just have you tank, you'll be able to get it. And they go for another pick. But then Guga immediately gets isolated here by the Senna after missing his hook, and Team Dynamics were not able to follow up, so it was just a simple one
하나, 둘, 셋, 또!
Ah, so it was with the Shock Blast and the Piercing Arrow. I like it. Good coordination there. Gold even. Drake's even. Although I guess Cloud not as good as Ocean Drake. Turret's even. Everything's even apart from an extra kill being on SANDBOX. It's a close game.
This is an even game. I really do feel like it could go either way.
You don't say.
Yeah. I do think that the Azir could get pretty nasty as this game does come along, and that the Senna will lose some effectiveness, although the Varus and the Jace are not really going to be building too much tanky stats, especially against MR, against their team, so they might be the targets here for Fate if you can pick one of them off real quick.
And this isn't actually Lethality Senna either, so actually scales even better. Like, Senna infinitely scales, right, because you pick up your stacks, but it's going to be even better than the Lethality version because Lethality inherently falls off, and there are 2 Lethality users on Dynamics side. So still, I mean, I'm not going to discredit Azir and Lethality Varus. Lethality Varus is just so incredibly safe because you can shoot from so far away that it's so reliable to get so much damage down. So yeah, there is a chance that SANDBOX can get this in a late game scenario. Cougar will find another. Oh, the Root. What a disaster.
There it is. That's why you pick Blitzcrank.
It's just like so consistent that it's not even exciting anymore. He's like got magnet fist. As, okay. Oh, Summit pretty good at that one, but is still going to flash away. So I believe Chains of Corruption going out that he had to respect. As Summit looking to get onto Docdom. Doesn't have his Q though. Devour will come out from Gorilla. He might actually suffer the fate for this. And no, it's in fact the piercing arrow.
What? Where'd he go?
Going to kill the Aurelia.
Yeah, I think he got Shock Blast, piercing arrow to the face. Yeah, Aurelia's got one shot. If you mess that up, you're probably going to die, and you might bait your team, as did happen there.
Yep. You know what? I think Varus is probably worth banning.
You don't say. This is a blind hook.
Damn, saw him walking in there, but that was real impressive.
He doesn't even overreact to it. He's just like, yeah, okay, got him.
I mean, neither did we really, because it's just pretty good.
And let's see. No, it's just the piercing arrow. Just the one piercing arrow through the I almost said the Gorilla. I mean, it is Gorilla, but through the top Kench. And yeah, he's got so much stacked up lethality now that finally Summit is going to go into the Death's Dance third. He's already got that into Tabby. All going to be very effective up against what Team Dynamics do have for Poke.
Yep. Root does have his rapid fire cannon as well. That's good news. Bit of extra range available. Bit of extra damage. SANDBOX, 29 seconds. This could have been Soul Point. It's just so crazy that the double lethality steal was enough to stop Onflick locking down that smite, as they do get a snare onto Guga. Second one as well as Fate looking to go forward, and in fact able to taxi via Guga there as into the back line goes SANDBOX. Summit. Oh, well, that was so close to not be what they wanted, but Onflick with a sick flash just goes over and murders Guga. Rich now gets exhausted. He's going to run away pretty tired from this one, and God, Brute doesn't get the player of the game if SANDBOX win this. I'll eat my hat. It's been landing so many of these snares. Really looking good, but Dynamics throw away an advantage and will give away the Infernal Drake along with it.
Yeah. You have Aurelia, Volibear, and Senna and Syndra for pick. You're going to want to hard engage, and they finally do it. They see them down the river, and they're like, I see you, you don't have everybody set up, you don't have a phalanx ready, and they just run them down, and that's exactly what this comp wants to do. You get the pick with the Syndra, you go on in. I don't know why they didn't just kill Cougar here. That kind of delayed things and almost killed their Syndra and made things a lot messier. Instead, they kind of greeted for the second kill. It works out that they get that one, and then Onflick becomes the big bear. I don't know what Rich is doing here. That is just a straight up unforced error. He did not have to dive in for no reason. The exhaust makes it even more sure. It makes him look a little bit more silly. And he also gets caught out there. So that is the Drake given over to SANDBOX after that nice engage.
Yeah, really good stuff. Means in another 4 minutes time, SANDBOX get to fight for that Infernal Soul, which is so valuable for either team. Does also mean that had Onflick nailed the smite, they would have Infernal Soul right now. We probably shouldn't be talking about that, as the gold is still dead even. Not representing the extra stats that you're going to gain from the Infernal. But Death's Dance is completed. We've got another Crit Cloak onto Root. Looks like he's going to be going for 4th item Infinity Edge to try and do even more late game damage.
Yeah. They do have a nice amount of scaling themselves, as you did mention. The Senna enter build does make that possible. The Aurelia can also do some crazy things as the game does come along. And this is definitely an easy game. It does feel still like it could go either way.
Yeah.
There's an immense amount of pick on both sides, actually. A little bit better for Team Dynamics, but I like the way that SANDBOX have been playing their composition.
Yeah, Volibear's booking it. There's the pick. All right, has to get the Ragnarok out as well. Beyond now down a big cooldown. His Warmogs will kick in, so he'll get that health bar back, but he won't get his R button back for a little while. Someone moving up from the bottom side. Still 3 minutes until that Infernal Drake. Seems to be the Baron that SANDBOX are fighting for, and they're feeling frisky. They're feeling like they do have some form of control. Rich with teleport. The Jace is not exactly your flanking teleport user. Now going to spot him out here as well. Gorilla walks on over this ward. He's looking to go back. Oh no, this is actually really bad.
Uh-oh.
Oh, Gorilla. Attaboy. Okay. Attaboy. Spidey senses were tingling, spotted the rest of Dynamics moving towards him. Understood there was something up. As Fate moves up towards the top side. I think he got experience for those minions at least. He's going to go back as well as Dynamics push this wave towards the stub of the inner turret. This is on a knife's edge. This is actually really... Feels like whoever wins this next team fight is going to win the game. SANDBOX a little bit more to fight for. 2 minutes time.
Volibear has an insane amount of armor. He is kind of just standing in the front and taking the poke from the Varus and the Jace. You see he takes a lot more damage from the Azir. And I think Kuzan is beginning to realize that. He spots him on the flank and is able to push him back and force him to go for a quick recall, but Fate immediately able to strike back against Cougar, who does have to be careful. I mean, the enemy team also has a ton of damage, so if you go up in the front, you miss another hook and you get caught, you're gonna die. And that's all that Blitzcrank has, really. You have the one hook, you have the ability to isolate one member, but you can also get yourself into a really rough spot, so you gotta be careful if you are Cougar here.
Yep. Beyond is in a similar boat as well, because the Olaf doesn't really have too much to make him relevant at this stage of the game. Doesn't do any damage. Just basically a meat shield to go in there and stand in front of people. I guess we'll be able to stop Root from being able to freely auto-attack or anything like that. But I'm looking at the Aurelia and I'm getting a bit scared.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Does have that cloth armor building towards a 4th item GA. And after that, what is it? Steric's Gauge, and then you're a raid boss. Or it's anything.
Yeah.
You could even go for Mercurial's Scimitar if you want to. But
look at this gold difference over time.
It's a heart monitor.
It's up and down, and right now it's right in the middle. The difference is about 100 gold, 150 gold. It does slowly feel like SANDBOX have the advantage. Here we go.
Yep, Beyond is going to get stunned up. Ragnarok available yet again, so that snare is not going to arm as Gorilla is going to throw out the Devour to make sure that Root doesn't take too much damage. And now Beyond, no ultimate. SANDBOX with another opportunity to re-engage. But Dynamics, they need to get that poke out. They need to start hitting their targets. And Gorilla is going to bear the brunt of the first one. He does have a fair bit of regen. That piercing arrow is not going to land. That undertow not going to find the mark. The Infernal Drake is alive. This is soul point for SANDBOX. Dynamics, you best believe they're gonna opt in for a fight before anything else. Rich going in onto Summit. Now Beyond gets in there. That's going to be the Infernal Soul picked up by SANDBOX, but a 2-man ultimate comes down, but it doesn't matter. Just straight up too much damage out of SANDBOX here. Docdom is getting ran down by a big old bear. That would have been terrifying, to say the least, and the Catfish is going to gobble up the Jace. This should be the game for SANDBOX.
We still got 40 seconds on all the major members on the side of Team Dynamics. They do not have enough time. SANDBOX is going to win off of the ace at the Infernal Soul play. You can see Beyond not looking too happy down there on the bottom side. Fate, he should be happy. Had an excellent game on his Syndra. SANDBOX finally, on the first game that Yamato makes it back on stage, they win just their second game of the LCK.
Incredible work from SANDBOX. I'm not going to give it all over to Yamato because it felt like the players were just executing their strategy so much better than we've seen from SANDBOX, and up against a comp that we've seen work so easily in the hands of so many others. And Dynamics have proved themselves to be a good team, even up against SANDBOX in the promotion tournament only a few weeks ago. It's not over until it's over, but that is a great start. And one stat that I didn't want to mention during the game because it might have been sad was that before this, Summit was 1-4 on Aurelia. He played 5 games. He's on a 20% win streak. 20% win rate, was able to just pick up the Aurelia here and take the win on a champion that he doesn't even have a very good history with. So really impressive that SANDBOX have that as their counter pick, and that helps them get across the line.
Yeah, it was a really nice recipe that they cooked up here in this game. It seemed like they knew exactly what they wanted into Poke, Varus, Jace. It's almost like, you know, we were talking a lot about the Jace and the Big Ban, and I don't want to give them too much of the benefit of the doubt and call them, you know, 400 IQ, but just baiting them into a style that, you know, just doubled down on itself, especially once you pick up the Jace, that towards the mid to late game, if the Azir wasn't fed enough and doing enough, they could collapse to a hard engage comp with Aurelia diving your back lines, Syndra looking for picks, Senna for the consistent damage, and the Volibear just being a huge meat shield in the front. And it was so close all the way up to the end, all the way up to 35 minutes, and then it was all SANDBOXes.
Yep, then it fell off a cliff entirely. Got to the very edge of the continent, I guess. But very impressively done, and it always felt like SANDBOX had that little bit more control. It just hadn't been pushed far enough by Dynamics. Not enough was landing, as I don't think you voted for a player of the game yet.
Oh.
Yeah, so who's...
Forgot about that one.
It's all right, you got a little bit more this time around. But give us a peek into the mind of Brendan Valdiano.
I think it's either mid or jungle here.
Yeah, I think Fate probably had one of his best games ever.
There were so many Syndra picks that opened up, and then, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see until after the break, Atlas.
That's exactly right, and thankfully you were saved by the bell. So we are going to go to that short break. When we get back, is it a SANDBOX 2-0? You'll have to wait to find out.
강 나와. 여기 찍어 있을게.
이번에 봐봐.
올라프 노동이야.
이번에 봐봐.
강 나와.
가자. 우리
나 스톤 아낄게. 오케이. 간다. 올라프. 아지로 높을. 바로 내가 잡았어. 내가 잡았어. 내가 잡았어.
뚜따가 알아?
야, 제이스 높을.
끝내자.
끝내.
나이스. 미드.